Guys, welcome to the Dragon's Voice podcast. I am your host, truly, Reece Deans, and I hope you guys are doing well. And as I'm recording this will probably be released in about a week or so, or, I hope you enjoyed the last episode, which was with Sean Petchick, who's doing comfortably well up in Canada, and I'm jealous because he makes FIFA, so I'm still waiting on FIFA, mate. Come on. But anyway, I try and search high and lows for a lot of guests, and some of the times I know you guys don't get the ones you desperately want, but any guest that comes on the show, it's always an honor because they find the time to do it and it helps other people. And especially now, because we're in the middle of this new lockdown, Wales, people of Wales, listen, we can tolerate a lot of things. So hopefully we can get through this, and it's brilliant. It's beautiful. But hopefully football will come back one day. And especially for this particular person who I love to see on the television a lot, and hopefully she takes over Dylan. Sorry, Dylan.
Easy. Get me in trouble.
I had Dylan on the guest before, but it's none other than Sgorio presenter Nicky John. And I had a little bit of a joke. I said, I hope me and Dylan have always had a little joke about it. And he always smiles. But what's your relationship like with Dylan? It's got to be amazing, a good time with him.
Yeah, he's great. He is based down in Cardiff and I'm up in Carnarvon in North Wales. So obviously since March, there's been less and less time of everyone spent in the office as well. And then we had that very long period of no games whatsoever and not even knowing when we might begin again. But we kept in touch, as you do, because these people become not only your colleagues, they become friends. It's natural when you spend so much time with people. And he is constantly smiling and constantly happy. And yeah, he's just a great person to be around and a great person to learn from as well.
I learned a lot from Dylan every time I watch Sgorio, and I'm ashamed to say this, but I'm not a fluent Welsh speaker. I know a bit of my Welsh and everything, so I think that's good enough. But I think after this lockdown, because the problem with me, even though I could concentrate on a few things, for some reason, I just can't get Welsh to sink in. It's got to take a lot of me, a lot of energy to do it.
I think maybe that's something that, I don't think you're alone with feeling that way. And I think that comes down to practice and confidence. And I think it's a big thing in any other language that's perhaps not your mother tongue to kind of say, okay, I'm going to bite the bullet and try and have a conversation, or just try and make a couple of exchanges with someone in a language that you don't feel comfortable with. But I think the fact that you're happy to have a go, and also the more chance and opportunity that you give that, it just comes more second nature. And before you know it, there you go, you'll be fluent and without thinking about it.
With you then, because of course you're a fluent Welsh speaker, you worked in Sgorio, but with the Sgorio, how important do you think Sgorio is to Welsh football then? I think that's the first time I've asked that, because I had that as a question for Dylan and I just completely forgot about it, because we went off on many topics and just had a laugh. Yeah. But how do you think is how important it is for Welsh football, Sgorio?
Well, I mean, obviously, I have to be careful because I could come across as slightly biased here, but I think on the whole, it's a well-established brand that's now over 30 years in the making. I think it had a fantastic following and opportunities that it presented to people, even in the days before we covered the Welsh League. It embarked on one of the, back in 1988, I think, when it first came to our screens, it was one of the only platforms where you could tune in, all for free, of course, and watch, European highlights. And for the first time, some of these superstars were brought to our screens in the comfort of our own home. and wouldn't be seen anywhere else. You know, you had really groundbreaking first female presenter in Amanda Prothero-Thomas, who people drawn to her, warm to her on the screens to watch her, but also going out and interviewing the people that she did as well, and established relationships with them. It was just another reflection of, I think, something that Sgorio does, which is makes you feel kind of comfortable. It's like a little bit of a hug, really, like a football hug, if there is such a term. And I think that in the days since we've begun covering the Welsh League in 2008, I think, we've just come on leaps and bounds, and I would like to think that we do play a really important part in where Welsh football is at the moment, in terms of generating an interest, an audience, being a platform where we can hear from these players and managers and club volunteers, and seek out the stories, give them an opportunity to be heard, really get in there and get to know the people involved, and what it is that makes Welsh football, from grassroots upwards, so special. I think, I would like to think that we do have an important part to play it, and that we play it well.
So let's get down to it then, about you as a presenter. How did you get your career started then in Sgorio, and how did it all begin?
Well, I came out of university. I'd studied drama and theatre as part of my degree, and I was very much the performer. I wanted to be on stage, always had been. I had like two interests really growing up. One was football, and the other was, anything to do with performance, really. So, I came out of uni. I worked for a short period with a theatre company. That was just over a summer project. And then around the same time, really, I had decided to send in a CV and a couple of details to the producers at Sgorio, who, unbeknown to me, were looking for someone at the time. So they got in touch. We did a screen test, and what came in to do like a couple of samples of voicing packages and that kind of thing. And at the time, it was a very small production in terms of numbers of staff, because when I did join, I think there was myself, the senior producer, and a producer, and that was every week, just those three people working on a show. Obviously, it's a very different show now, and that wouldn't even be possible these days. But it was a really quite a small production. But again, it was this well-established brand that had an audience, and the audience had kind of grown up with it over the years. I don't know, I feel probably I got lucky. I took a chance on a CV and somehow got a response, went to see them, had a couple of conversations, and before you know it, I was being flown to Milan on, I think, around my birthday, the beginning of September one year, to film an item, because it had come at the season. Do you remember when there was like 4 Italian clubs that got docked loads of points?
Yeah.
So I went to Milan and Turin to film my first item, which was like just such an eye-opener. I think I'd grown up watching the programme, so yes, I knew what it was about, what it was all about. But to then actually be the person being sent out there on the plane to go and put these items together, and I don't know, it was a learning process. And when I think back now, I think, at that age, at that time, I think I was quite a timid little thing, really. And I think I had a bit of an eye-opener in terms of what was involved and how hard you have to work to put a programme like that together. I think until you're actually in that situation, it's difficult maybe to appreciate all that's involved with putting a show like that together.
When you started doing Sgorio and everything, was there a particular moment that stood out for you when you started? Was there anyone who took you under their wing in some ways just to help you out, or was you a bit comfortable enough or confident enough just to go, I'll try and work on my own?
I was very nervous. I was very, very nervous. And I think one of the things that hindered me for quite a long time was I didn't feel confident enough to say, actually, I find this quite not quite scary, but I didn't feel confident and comfortable enough. And I think looking back at some of my early work, I think that's probably quite evident in that, I was just quite nervous, and also the feeling of, God, I can't believe that I'm here doing this, in the stadium after a game in Spain, La Liga, collecting interviews and trying to get interviews from players, which, I hasten to add, I don't speak Spanish fluently. So I can just about get by on a couple of things, but, I was phonetically learning questions to be able to ask the players as they came off and went through the mix zone. I can remember the first game that I went to, Barcelona against Valencia, and been given pitch side access in those days to go and do a couple of links down on the pitch before the game, and Ronaldinho stood behind me, and Samuel Eto'o, and just things like that as a football fan blow your mind, to be in that, to walk down that tunnel at the Nou Camp and to look up and see, you walk past the chapel on your right hand side, and you walk out onto the pitch and the stands got Mescun Club, these pictures that you see and you can't actually believe that you're there, and then to actually try and focus and be able to work then. I think that maybe that is one of the things that hindered me back in the early days, is that I did probably find it a little bit overwhelming, but maybe instead of voicing those concerns, it was something that I tried to keep to myself and learn to cope with, where, I don't know, in hindsight, maybe actually having a conversation with someone and saying, listen, can you help me get my head around this, would have been a better and more appropriate way forward for everyone.
Do you know what? I'm going to try and do this. It's the first time I'm ever going to do this. I tried, it was an idea, but I thought it was a cliche. But I thought, because your first female guest, I thought, let's do something new. So I've got a list of names here, right?
Okay.
And all you're going to do is describe them in one word, right?
Okay. Oh, gosh.
So,
I feel under pressure now.
Dylan Ebenezer.
Happy.
Oh, yeah, you can't go wrong. Just, he makes you happy, just smiling. He's like, oh, he's made my day. Good old Malcolm Allen.
Bonkers.
John Hartson.
John, well, actually, I'll say about John, he's hilarious. He's hilarious. You cannot be in his company. He's just hilarious. He makes me laugh every time.
He's one of those people that I really want to get on my show, and I understand he was busy, like I was saying before the podcast.
I think he's just started a podcast now as well, isn't he?
Yeah, that's why, because he started the podcast and because he does BT work and Sgorio work and everything, it's like, oh, Christ, this schedule work, man. It's going to be mad. But
he's just such a down-to-earth guy, though. If you can get in touch with him, it's well worth doing, because, he's... some of the things he comes out with makes me laugh.
Owain Tudor Jones.
Tall. Because he always amazes me every time I see him. I am always, and you think I'd be used to it by now, but I'm always slightly surprised by how tall he is. And actually, if I know this is the second word, but I should say charismatic as well, because he is like Mr. Charisma every time. So yeah.
Here we go. Ryan Giggs.
Hero.
Yeah, without a doubt. Do you think he's redeemed himself in some ways? Because he went through a patch where, a moment where a lot of the Welsh fans, a lot of Wales fans were losing faith with Ryan Giggs because of the way he contributed as a player. But do you think he's redeemed himself as a manager?
Well, yeah, I don't. Yeah, the redemption thing is a tricky phrase, because I think that's a matter of opinion. I think that obviously there were plenty of Wales fans who were a little bit sceptical about seeing him come in as a manager because of the amount of games that perhaps he wasn't available for as a player. But there were plenty of games that he was available for.
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes we don't remember that. I think as a manager, the real turning point for me where I saw this guy means business was after the Albania game, you know, the Chris Gunter record-breaking cap match. It was a terrible game, terrible performance. Obviously, it was only a friendly, so you know, there was nothing on it but pride, really. But it was the end of the year, the November, and it was the last time the players were going to be together for, you know, several months. And he was so annoyed at that game, that performance. After the game, the waiting for interviews, the doors are closed, you know, not going to rush to come out and see you. Probably comes to speak to you, doesn't really want to speak to you, because how do you reflect on such a poor performance? And I could see that day that, you know, he's got a little bit of fire in him, and actually he naturally, as you would as a manager in any position, if you've got any pride whatsoever, you're there because you want to do a job and you want to do well. And I think he's doing exactly that.
Here's, I think, sort of the type of person, the next person I'm going to mention now is always on his level, always try to be who is better than who and everything. And it's none other than, I mean, I got a ponytail myself, but I mean, come on, this man, Gareth Bale. I mean, the comparisons, these two, it's like, who is better, who is this, and it's so tricky. But how would you describe Gareth Bale? Because you've done interviews
Does
with
this
him.
have to be in one word again?
You could do one word, you could change it.
Every time I meet Gareth Bale, I'm always taken aback by how down to earth and normal he is. I think that you know, he's obviously built up to be this superstar, and you know, sometimes when someone walks into a room, I remember the first time I interviewed him, it was Moldova away, so we just won the previous game back home here before flying out to Moldova. And when you do the day before a match day, you know that they're gonna send you the manager plus a senior player, usually the captain. Gareth Bale, in all my time of doing this, hadn't been sent before. So when he walks into the room, it's like, oh my God, it's Gareth Bale, it's Gareth Bale. And I got that moment where I was like, oh, what can I say to Gareth Bale? You know, because again, a little bit you go into fan mode and you're like, oh God, you know, it's this superstar who, you know, has been responsible for kind of lifting a nation during the Euros and everything previous. And it was a little bit of a moment where I thought, oh, I've got to get a grip here, and you know, pull myself together. And he's actually very softly spoken, yeah, just really down to earth. And he doesn't, sometimes before we start recording, if we're there a little bit early, you'll see him with, you know, he has security and different people like that, and you know, you see them like bit of banter and pulling each other's leg and stuff, and realize, you know, he's he's just like, he could be any guy. It could be the same as, you know, if I was talking to you. So even though there's this like superstar persona out there, at the end of the day, spend 5 minutes, you'll see that, you know, it's just like you and me.
Yeah. Here's another name, Ben Davies.
Oh, so nice. Anne Will is what I'd say. Anne Will. Just, how can I translate that? Yeah, just meaning that someone's really sweet and nice natured. Again, really down to earth and normal. I say this on quite a regular basis, but they're nice and normal. And obviously, the more you get to see someone, the more that you kind of establish that, okay, they're not just talking to a stranger now, they're talking to someone that they know, and also that they know that there's no agenda there on my part. You know, I'm not there to kind of try and dig or anything like that. So yeah, Hogyn bach Anwyl.
Is one name for you. I think it's, I don't know, because it's a bit of a sad one though, because the news broke out, but it's Dai Davies.
I think the absolute world of Dai, and there's no way that I can sum him up in one word. He's been very kind to me from my early days working on the programme, when I first got to know him, right through to when I started presenting, and he would be with me on the side of the pitch, and he'd always make sure that, you know, I was okay, was I ready, and, you know, he'd say to me, don't worry, no one's watching us. It's only you and me in a chat, in terms of trying to make me feel relaxed, rather than me thinking, oh God, I've got to do this all to an audience at home, and I don't want to make any mistakes, and I don't want to get anything wrong. He is a really, really lovely man. I'm happy to say that during the last couple of months, I've managed to stay in touch with his family, and just send a couple of messages, and that cheeky humour is still there with him as well. But, you know, I think the absolute world of him, and that's why it's impossible to sum him up in just one word.
Is a particular one for you a familiar name? Iwan Roberts.
Iwan, okay. Well, Iwan again is a funny one, because he comes from a village about 5 or 6 miles away from where I grew up, and his mother was my teacher in primary school, who I think they're world of to this day. You know, like, you remember maybe a couple of teachers that made an impression on you. Or Mrs. Roberts is the one that's there for me. And Iwan actually played football with my dad for Harlech Town when he was, you know, starting out. So he would have been about 15, 16, playing with Dad, and that's something that Dad likes to remind him of to this day.
Are you family friends then? Because when I did my research, it says that you still keep in touch and everything.
Yeah, well, my first ever football match that I got to go and see, because I'm a Manchester United supporter, so the first time I ever got to go, that was thanks to Iwan. It was a Christmas present, and United were playing Leicester City, who he was with at the time, at Old Trafford. So yeah, thanks to him, Santa bought me some tickets to watch United against Leicester, and Iwan also arranged that we went to Filbert Street for the return fixture later on that season. So yeah, he's a great guy.
I think I've mentioned, I don't know if I have, Chris Coleman.
Oh, he's such a great guy. I saw him actually in Wembley just before the England game the other week, and was able to stop and have a chat with him. And I guess a hero is the term for Chris Coleman as well, because it's something that is just like kept in our hearts. You know, it's easy to romanticize about things, but that summer of 2016 is something that none of us will ever forget. And you know, we carry that with us. And he's such a warm guy as well. He's really friendly and easy to talk to, and yeah, he's always going to be a bit of a hero, isn't he?
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if there'll be a statue of him somewhere, you know, because
Oh, we have to get one of those.
yeah, but it is a thing, though. I mean, I'm going to mention the predecessor, and it's none other than Gary Speed, obviously. But I remember, I will never forget. I've met Gary Speed as well, and just the awe and presence of him, and I will never ever stop talking about him, because not just a Barry Town fan, but I'm also an Everton fan, and
Okay.
that's my father's fault, that is. But the thing, that's just a family fault thing, and unfortunately my missus' family are all Liverpool fans, so that's just great.
Well, actually, you've got the last laugh at the moment, though, haven't you?
Oh yeah.
You're not doing too bad.
Oh yeah, not too bad at all. I'm just living the dream at the moment, just living it until we
Enjoy it while you can.
yeah, literally. But there was something about Gary Speed that really made me hope that he's going to take us somewhere, and unfortunately it was his untimely passing. But I just wanted to know what was your thoughts of Gary Speed.
It's difficult to put into words, actually, because obviously, as you mentioned, it was all so untimely, and I think, you know, I've mentioned the word hero a couple of times, but I think in terms of Gary Speed, you have to go one further and say legend, because of what he meant to football, of what he meant to Welsh football as both a player and a manager. I think a lot of what we've seen in motion with the Wales squad over the last 5-6 years or more, it all began with him. It was his vision. He was taking us on a journey, and it's very difficult to kind of, well, to think of any other term, really. You know, I know we can never know how that may have ended up, but I think that people just feel that they want to give their thanks to him for what he did contribute. It's such an important part of our Welsh football history. And, you know, I see you mentioned Everton, I see Leeds, you know, so many clubs also feel that they've got a debt of gratitude to him. And, you know, I think that he always will be looked upon with that legendary status in Wales.
Yeah, I know, without a doubt. And the thing is as well, I don't want to put in an upsetting mood, because I always think positive of Gary Speed anyway, and it sounds like I knew him as a person, even though I didn't. I only met him a few times, but it was just the fact that even the presence alone is a bit, oof, neck, you know. He didn't play for clubs like what Ryan Giggs and Gareth Bale have, but the thing is, it doesn't matter what clubs you play for, it's the impact you've made. And that was something inspiring of him. And when Chris Coleman took over, you know, I will never forget that press conference. Yeah, I think one of the journalists says, "No one wants to be here, do they?" And he went, "No, we don't." I mean, and for some reason, I remember, just very quickly say this before we end it on a happy note, but it's just, I remember I went shopping with my grandparents and my uncle, and for some reason, and we went into the city centre, and for some reason, it was like, no, something doesn't feel right. I don't know if it was me. I don't know if it was something. I don't know if it was the smelly atmosphere of Cardiff, but there was something not right. And then next, you know, I just looked at my phone, and then Gary Speed passed me. I thought, oh my God, you know. And but then Chris Coleman took it over, and you know, he faced a lot of obstacles in his way, but he did it with such style. Put the sunglasses on, son, and just enjoy it while you can, you know, because he did everyone proud. But especially this particular person, and I'm going to finish because I remember you tweeted, you responded to one of my tweets on Dragon's Voice, and it's you got to keep a chin up. Chris Gunter.
Chris Gunter, I know.
Chris Fleming Gunter.
I love Chris Gunter.
You know, I'll say this now. I had Jonathan Brown on the podcast not long ago, and he's close friends with Chris Gunter, and he says, if you ever want him, I can try and do it. And I thought, you better, because
you should get that.
Oh, I love him. I absolutely, someone said, we had this big conversation, me and my mates, and we were talking about who's our favorite players. I mean, people named Joe Allen, people named Ben Davies, Gareth Bale, obviously, Aaron Ramsey. I said, no, Chris Gunter,
No.
without a doubt, that guy, like Hal Robson Kanu, you know, they came from clubs that were considered mediocre, but come on, he's no mediocre to us. He's someone, he's like a shining beacon of the Welsh squad. And
I
please,
know.
Giggs, give him his 100th cap right now.
I know. He's Chris Gunter is Chris Gunter, isn't he? And that's all you can say on that. He's just like, amazing. Love him.
But the thing about Chris Gunter is that I'll never get. It's like I was really gutted that I didn't go to France, and I'll mention that because you went to France and experienced it whole. And I've had loads of mates saying, "Oh, Paris and Bordeaux and this." I'm thinking, shut up! I didn't go, and I will never forget. I don't know what game it was, so help me out with this, Nick. It was one of the chin-ups. I don't know if it was the England match or something else, but I'll just never forget. It was on the telly, and all I seen was Chris Gunter just doing this. He was just going, just chin up, guys.
Do it. Wasn't that after the Portugal game?
Was it? I don't know.
I might be wrong. I don't know.
But we'll always remember that picture of him just saying, keep your chin up.
Every time. Do you know, I've sent text messages to people saying, I can't remember who it was. But I've just put at the bottom of the message, say, listen, I'm doing a Chris Gunter chin up to you now. Just like keep your head up, chin up, everything will be okay. And that picture that you posted the other day, it made me smile.
Do you know, because that's what it was. Because I saw, because of the whole problems, I thought, how is Wales? You know, people of Wales who are football fans and everything. How am I gonna cheer them up? Because I'm not. I mean, I've had my ups and downs and everything, but I've always had my missus to back me up and cheer me up. And I always see her do that. I go, I know what you did there.
Yeah. But, you know where you got that one from.
And but I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. And then I said, just show Chris Gunter doing that. Everyone's going to make their day, you know. And
everybody's happy.
Yeah, but let's go on to France then. I mean, a big moment for Sgorio, a big moment for Wales. I mean, it was just huge moment, and I will never. I'll tell you a funny thing before I ask you this question. I was in a drama company, and I remember they were supposed to be. They were doing a summer show, and because Wales were doing so well, and it was in the middle of June, going to July, and the show was coming up to mid-July, late July. So the director had this big rant going, why is everyone going to these Wales games? Football is this, football is that. And one or two people were, non-football fans saying, I don't get this, I don't get that. And I said, well, let me tell you. And I stood up, I said, well, let me tell you this. If Wales got to the finals of the Rugby World Cup, how would you feel? Well, I feel proud, but it doesn't matter. I was like, well, it does, because, I mean, we all look at Wales as this big thing, you know, because the Welsh rugby side should be known as this sort of Rugby World Cup winning squad or anything, even though we haven't won the trophy yet. But it's like with Wales, we're always being shadowed, underlooked and everything, and it's a big moment. People missed rehearsals, people missed anything. I remember everyone got into a big argument, and there was only three of us who turned around and said, look, it's a big moment. It's only happening from mid-June to early July. Just let us enjoy it, for crying out loud.
Yeah, it was a moment in history. And I remember feeling at the time, you know, it just lifted the nation and gave us confidence as a nation that perhaps we hadn't felt for some time. It was an amazing thing, and I don't know whether I felt like that about anything since, really. It was just like so wow and unbelievable, and so much pride, I watched a couple of those games being rerun again over the lockdown period now, and you just feel so proud. But yeah, it was a special time.
Yeah, it was absolutely special, and especially as well, I mean, you'll never ever see a brilliant picture apart from Chris Gunter's chin up moment, but you'll never, you know, it's just Gareth Bale fist clenching, stretching out, going yes, like that. Yeah, you know.
Well, it was just a reflection of what it meant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was like that actual stance was how we all felt inside. I mean, you mentioned not being there yourself. I wasn't there. I was on maternity leave at the time.
Oh, never.
Yeah, so I was trying to watch those games with a 4-month-old baby at the time, and I remember usually I had managed to get him down to sleep in time so that I could watch it. And I can remember, it must have been the Belgium game. You know, I wasn't really drinking that much at the time, but I remember there was a bottle of champagne cracked open that night. And the next morning I woke up with such a hangover, and I can remember saying, I am not fit to be a mother today. I am not fit to be, because it was an amazing time. Very different experience watching it at home. And, you know, there was a lot of the time I wondered, is there actually anyone else at home except for myself? Because it felt like everyone else was out there.
Last one to leave Wales, turn the light off, you know.
Yeah, that's how it felt.
Yeah.
But no, amazing.
I remember I was in the Wetherspoons for the Belgian game, and it was packed, and it was me, a friend of mine, Jack Phillips, and his dad Nigel, and we were there. And I had work the next day, but someone said in my old workplace, they said, if we ever get to a final, we're closing the shop just to watch it. And I was like, oh, great. But I remember watching the Belgium game, and then Belgium scored the first one. I thought I was gutted, I was heartbroken, but at the same time I was a bit, it was a nice journey. We finished further than England, and the next, you know, Ashley Williams scores the header, and I just went, hang on a minute, now this is not funny now. And then next, you know, Hal Robson-Kanu just scores that unbelievable goal, and I'm thinking, you've got no club, mate, and you just done that. I won't be surprised. And then next, you know, Sam Vokes just comes out of nowhere, and he has his fair share of the cake, you know, and it's like, hang on a minute, this ain't funny. And I remember pints were thrown, and we just drank till...
It didn't feel like it could be real, did it? It felt like the kind of stuff that, you know, happens in dreams, or, you know, it just felt like, you know, is this real? Is this real? But yeah, I bet there were a few pints sunk that night, weren't there?
Oh, definitely. So, I think I should ask you, because as a podcaster, you know, me getting the guests, and because you're a broadcaster, you've had your fair share of experience. What advice would you give me as a podcaster, as someone who's doing sort of a similar job to you? How would you give me the advice to improve or adapt and change for the future?
Well, I think that what 2020 has done is given us all an opportunity to kind of look at the way that we work, look at the way that we live our lives, and perhaps establish the elements that we're happy with, and also where we feel, okay, actually I'm not so sure about this, so, you know, I'd like to change this, and I'd like to do it this way. It sounds like a cliche, but I always feel that people skills are up there with one of the most important aspects of I don't know, of personality, of certainly what I do, because I feel that if you can get people to warm to you and actually feel that you're on their side, and that you just want to chat to them in the way that you chat to a mate, or, you know, I'm not saying you have to go completely informal by any stretch of the imagination, but it sounds like a cliche, but I think there's a lot to be said about just be yourself, because as soon as you start to try like copying someone else's formula, or being, I don't know, being something that you're not, that mask can slip quite quickly. And in fact, there's no need to do that. Just be you. Just be. If you're chatting about something that you and the other person are passionate about, then, you know, it's going to be able to, it's going to grow from there. So yeah, I would say, you know, keep doing what you're doing. And actually, I also say congratulations on managing to find a way to, you know, give yourself a platform and something else to think about during this time when there's so much negativity, you know, so many job losses, so many, I don't know, so many things to worry about this year, but actually to be able to switch off from all that, however briefly that might be, and concentrate on something that you feel, you know, passionate about is a blessing.
Have you ever found a situation where you were in your career where you've had say like a bad interview or a bad moment? I'm not saying it's like a catastrophe or like an upsetting moment, but have you feel was there any experience that stood up for you where you've experienced like an awkward situation where, I don't know, it could be like someone you were interviewing had a bad day and they, you know?
I don't know, that's tricky. I don't know, in terms of live touch wood, I can't think of. Maybe there's been like a little mishap on the odd occasion where I thought that I wasn't sure that the camera that they were with me, so I think I stopped, but actually they were still on me, so you know I was quickly told to keep carrying on. And there's also been like there was an occasion where I stepped onto the field at the end when the cameras were picking up some glory shots. So I stepped in to go and do the interview before the winning manager went off, while they were still showing some celebrations and reactions at the end, which was noted. But I can't think of, again, I think probably for anything like that, I would have to go back to the early days, and that period where I did perhaps feel a little bit more uncertain about what I was doing. I was always very, very nervous about things. And when I think about that now, I just think, oh my God, it's such a shame, because if you do carry those kind of nerves, then very quickly that can snowball into something more negative with more negative connotations and just be I don't know, it does affect the way that you know that horrible, do you remember that horrible Sunday night dread that you used to have before going to work, before going to school on a Monday sometimes?
Yeah.
I think there was a period, certainly in the olden days, when I used to go in and voice packages on a Monday. Monday used to be a really, really long day. You'd have highlights coming in from Spain and Italy and Germany, and I'd be given a script to voice over these goals, and it was something that I found quite difficult. But the more that I got it into my head that I'm going to struggle with this, then I just used to sit and look at the page and there'd just be like letters bouncing off the page and not be able to get through it. And that's not an ideal situation when you're working in an environment that, you know, is quite well, it's reliant on time because you have to get things done by a certain period. And then I came into a situation where I was just terrified of ever making a mistake, and that's not a way to live. So I was fortunate then in that once the live games came about, I was given more of an opportunity where I was doing a lot more behind the scenes. And perhaps even though at the time I wasn't sure that that's what I actually wanted to pursue, I think a bit further down the road, it's actually been, you know, it's been priceless in terms of value of what, because it's given me an understanding of how everything works, what each section of the live broadcast requires from me as a person, as well. And I think that perhaps before all that, I probably didn't have the full appreciation of how the bigger picture works in terms of a broadcast or a program. So yeah, I just feel like it's a bit of growing up that I've had to do along the way, but a bit of learning as well. Never stop learning is one of the phrases that they use, isn't it? But I think, you know, certainly in this industry, it's true.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean, because I mean I've had a few, you know, apart from football podcasts and everything, I remember one or two, you know, mistakes where even if it's silly mistakes, you know, it's just keeping, you know, you made a note wrong. It's like me then. I made a mistake. I thought you actually went to France, and then you weren't, and I was like, oh, okay.
I went to France in spirit. Don't worry.
Spirit. Yeah, we all did, and but it's like I remember. I think the only time I've experienced a tricky situation where it was I was in a production. We did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I played Grandpa Joe, and I remember the entire thing just did not go right. The sets fell down. I mean, not big sets, but they're just like props that fell down, and you just had to improvise through it. And I remember one day, one show, and I know it's not to do with football, but it can happen any profession. But I remember once it was in the one scene, it was me playing Grandpa Joe, the kid playing Charlie, then it was the Mike TV couple, then it was my friend who was playing Willy Wonka. And we went off stage, and they were supposed to put the sets on for the next scene. They didn't, and we went on because my friend Jack was supposed to be leading us on, and he came on, and he noticed there was nothing on the set, nothing, empty stage, everything, and he just froze. And it's like anything else, when you make a mistake, you feel like when you notice it, it feels, even though it was a few seconds of you noticing it, time does drag, and you feel like, oh, flimneck, what's going on? And I remember the audience noticing, and I saw my friend and I saw the other castmates, and I just went, and it was just me, just instinct, just kicked in to improvise. And I remember him just looking at me going, you clever bastards, you know, and then we did it. But I was telling him, and I kept going, oh, so what's that over there? Indicating to go, get off the stage, we'll go around, and we'll do it again. It's just one of those things. And I think that's why, because like you took drama and everything, it helps you a lot, you know, because it handles situations. And that's why I've always loved doing podcasts, because you just look back on some of the drama terms going by script, and it works wonders. It does. So
I think as well, like sometimes personally for me, if there are any issues, rather than be able to look at the 99 good things that I did that day, I will dwell and dwell and dwell on the one thing that didn't go right. And you can drive yourself mad and you know, make yourself quite ill, actually, you know, worrying about that. But I guess at the end of the day, that's another form and process of learning, and kind of just proves that you never stop that wants to get better. You know, you keep wanting to get better all the time. So yeah.
So I got one or two more questions before we conclude. And it's been a brilliant podcast, by the way. It's been such an honor for you to come on the show.
I hope everyone stayed awake.
Yeah. I think they're more interested in you than me. They'd be like, oh, Reece, just shut up.
No, not at all.
Yeah, my missus is going, oh, just get on with it, crying out loud. No, so I think one of the questions is, what does the future hold for Nicky John with Sgorio? Or is there any plans for you in the future to go on to other things, or are you just happy where you are?
Do you know, I'm happy. Someone asked me this the other day, and I've had a couple of people say, you know, a couple of years ago, I actually got into a bit of a heated debate with someone about, you know, why aren't you trying to go off and do, you know, BBC and Sky and blah blah blah. Well, the simple answer to that is I love where I am. I love the people that I work with, and you know, I'm not saying it's all like, oh yeah, these people are great, because there are times that you do want to strangle each other, you know, that's natural. But I love the work that I do here in our league, and the people that I've got to know over the years. You develop relationships with them, and I don't know, just to be able to work with people, but to keep that really personal level. You know, I mentioned before about the whole people skills thing, and just be yourself, and to actually be able to work in an environment where you feel you can be yourself all the time. You know, that's to get up and think, oh, like yesterday, for example, okay, I'm not saying things have all changed the way we work now since lockdown. Working from home is a blessing, you know, with a 4-year-old, that I can go and do the school run and not have to worry about who's picking him up. I can crack on with some work in the evenings if I need to. Yesterday morning, I went out and filmed some links and chats for Moya Sgorio. Lovely location, nice little chat there. Loved it, really enjoyed it. Came home, I was peeling potatoes for tea by 1 o'clock. So, you know, it's a really nice thing to be able to juggle your work life and your home and family life so easily. That's not to say that, you know, if anything, you know, that I wouldn't have a conversation with someone, or that, you know, that I'm just like blinkers on, but I genuinely love what I do, and I really appreciate and respect the people that I work alongside, but also the people that I come to into contact with in our clubs, in our league, grassroots, beyond, whatever. So yeah, I'm just really lucky to be in a job that I enjoy so much.
I think you answered this my next question already, and I always finish this podcast off with the same question to anyone who comes on: is how do you look back on your career? But because, you know, 14 years and you got so much more to go ahead, so I'll say this: how do you look back on your career so far?
I look back on it as a great learning process where actually it never stops surprising me. Sometimes when I'm asked to go and do things and go, like, for example, you know, the stuff with Wales, sometimes I'm amazed that it's me there that's, you know, doing that role and has the opportunity and the honour really to go and be involved in something like that. It's never ever taken for granted, because I have experienced before how that can come to an end, and like all of a sudden you don't know when your next opportunity is going to arise, if there is going to be another opportunity. So there's a little bit of well, there's a lot of gratitude there really. Yeah, I'm just thankful really.
Well, Nicky, thank you so much for coming on the podcast to talk about your career, your experience, and just talk about football in general, really. So it really means a lot, and thank you so much for coming on.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem at all. So, guys, croeso. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to the Dragons Voice podcast. That was Nicky John, being the first female guest to come on the show as well. That's absolutely fantastic, and hopefully we'd like to see you again to come on in the future as well. But as well, guys, I hope you guys keeping yourself safe, especially in this particular moment in time where we're kept in a lockdown again. And like what me and Nicky have been saying, you know, just got to keep your chin up, stay positive, you know, because there's she's doing it now. We can't get any lower than this, and we should always keep our chins up. And there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and we will always get back to normality and get back to probably abusing the opposition teams that we go to the football. But we'll get back to football one way or the other. There's no doubt about it. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Dragons Voice podcast. I've been your host, Shirley Rees, and I'll see you all very soon. Take care.